How has your, if at all, through this really long search for wisdom, maybe changed? Is there anything that comes to mind that really changed throughout this search?
Sure. So when I started, I thought that wisdom was essentially a cultural construct, that it would vary from one culture to another. It would be different in India, China, US, Europe, and so on. And I was really surprised when I found that the definition of wisdom, as I found it in the modern Western literature, and that in some of the ancient scriptures, was surprisingly similar. And when I thought about it, actually these components, I found that they make so much sense, that there should be wisdom. And if the basic concept, clearly there are small changes here and there across cultures, across time, but the basic construct hasn't changed. And if it hasn't changed, it means that it must be biologically based. That's why its basic construct hasn't changed, just like stress has been there throughout human history. Similarly, consciousness has been there throughout history, right? So then the question for me was, how do you examine its biology? And so what I find is, this has become really exciting. Every time I learn something new, I answer one question, but then I raise 4 new questions.
Before we get into the definition of wisdom, I was wondering if you could differentiate between intelligence and wisdom.
Yeah, people often confuse intelligence and wisdom, and yet they're quite different. You do need some basic intelligence to be wise. There's no question about that. You need brain integrity to some extent to be wise. However, beyond that, IQ doesn't equate score on a wisdom scale. There are some very high IQ people, very intelligent, very smart people who are not wise. Some of them are antisocial, some of the mass murderers, some of the terrorists. They're very smart people. What they lack is not IQ. What they lack is empathy, compassion, helping others. They're very selfish, narcissistic, and ignorant of others' perspectives. And they are not focused on helping other people. They're all for themselves. Also, there are intelligent people whose emotions fluctuate wildly. They are angry at one point, calm at the other, depressed at the third one. They are not happy people. Wisdom, what makes wisdom really unique among these different traits is that it is associated with happiness, well-being, satisfaction, contentedness, and help to the rest of the society. That is critical, whereas IQ doesn't include any of those things.
When you think about the definition of wisdom, what's that succinct definition that you came up with?
So wisdom is a personality trait like extroversion or introversion, neuroticism, resilience. These are all personality traits, like characteristic patterns of behavior in an individual. So wisdom is a personality trait, but it is complex in the sense it has several different components. The most important component is empathy and compassion, things that we do for other people than for ourselves. Unselfish behavior to help the rest of the society. So that is the most important component of wisdom. Second one is control over emotions. So think about a teenager. His emotions fluctuate from hour to hour, minute to minute. But the wise person would be pretty controlled, calm. I mean, clearly that wise person would sometimes feel happy, sometimes sad, but wouldn't go to the extremes of emotions. And usually has control over the emotions. The third is self-reflection, ability to look inwards, try to understand our own behavior. When something goes wrong, the reflexive reaction is to blame something or somebody. Instead of that, you say, why did this thing go wrong? Maybe I did something that I should have done differently. What is it? Let me think about that. And then I will try to improve my behavior. So there is self-reflection.